The stars looked different from the bridge of the New Soul. Captain Lee Sun-woo had been saying that for 3 years now, ever since they left Earth's solar system. But today, they looked stranger than usual. Today, something was coming toward them that had never happened before in human history. "Captain, we're getting another signal," said Communications Officer Yoon Hai-in. Her voice was tight with worry. "It's the same pattern as before. 3 long pulses, then 2 short ones, then silence." Lee Sun-woo walked over to her station. The New Soul was a research ship, not a military one. They had weapons, but only small ones meant for clearing space debris. If something wanted to hurt them out here, so far from Earth, they would be in serious trouble. "How long have they been sending this signal?" he asked. 6 hours now, sir. Every 10 minutes, exactly the same pattern. Dr. Kim Tae-ho looked up from his workstation. He was the ship's main scientist, the one who studied alien life forms. For the past 2 years, he had been learning everything he could about a species called the Vorthak. They were hunters, predators that lived on worlds near the Kepler 442 star system. Every other alien species in the galaxy was afraid of them. "Captain," Dr. Kim said, walking over to them, "I think they want to talk to us." "The Vorthak?" Lee Sun-woo felt his stomach drop. "Are you sure?" The signal pattern matches their basic communication style. 3 long, 2 short, then waiting. It's how they call to each other across long distances on their home world. Yoon Hai-in shook her head. "But sir, the Vorthak have never tried to talk to anyone before. They just attack or ignore other species completely." Dr. Kim nodded. "That's what makes this so strange. In all our studies, we've never seen them try to communicate with aliens. They don't even talk to other predator species." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Lee Sun-woo looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, something that could kill them all was trying to send them a message. "What do we know about their ships?" he asked. Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo spoke up from his station. "They're fast and heavily armed. Their ships are built for hunting, not exploration. If one is coming toward us, it could destroy us before we even see it clearly." "But they're trying to talk," Dr. Kim said again. "Why would they send signals? If they just wanted to attack us?" Lee Sun-woo thought about this. He had served in Earth's Space Navy for 15 years before taking command of the New Soul. He had learned that in space, you had to make quick decisions. Sometimes those decisions meant life or death for everyone on your ship. "Can we send a signal back?" he asked Yoon Hai-in. "Yes, sir. What should we say?" "Send the same pattern back to them. 3 long, 2 short, then silence. Let them know we heard them." Yoon Hai-in's fingers moved quickly over her controls. A few seconds later, she nodded. "Signal sent, Captain." They waited. The bridge was so quiet that Lee Sun-woo could hear his own heartbeat. Then, after exactly 10 minutes, a new signal came through. "It's different this time," Yoon Hai-in said. 5 long pulses, then 3 short ones. "They're changing the pattern," Dr. Kim said, getting excited. "This is definitely communication. They're trying to build a language with us." Park Ji-won, the ship's language expert, hurried over to them. She had been listening from her station. Captain, this is amazing. No predator species has ever tried to learn how to talk to other aliens. The Vorthak are supposed to be the most dangerous hunters in this part of the galaxy. Maybe that's why this is so important, Dr. Kim said. If the Vorthak want to talk to us, something big must be happening. Lee Sunwoo made his decision. Send. Back 5 long and 3 short. Let's see what they do next. For the next 4 hours, they sent signals back and forth. The pattern kept changing, getting more complex each time. Park Ji-won worked frantically to find meaning in the sequences. Finally, she looked up with wide eyes. Captain, I think I understand. Part of it. They're trying to say approach and peaceful. At least that's what it looks like based on Vorthak language patterns we've studied. Are you sure? Nam Kyung-soo asked. Peaceful isn't a word the Vorthak use very often. I'm not completely sure, Park Ji-won admitted. But the patterns match what we know about their basic concepts. Just then, the ship's sensors began beeping loudly. Chief Engineer O. Dobbin called out from her station. Captain, we have a ship approaching. It's big, and it matched Vorthak. Design patterns. How big? Lee Sunwoo asked. About 3 times our size, sir. And, Captain, there are smaller ships with it. It looks like a whole group. The main screen lit up with an image from their external cameras. In the distance, they could see dark shapes moving against the stars. As the shapes got closer, details became clear. The ships were black and silver, with sharp edges and curved sections that looked almost like giant claws. Those are definitely Vorthak ships, Dr. Kim said. I've seen pictures of them in our files, but I've never seen them travel in groups like this. How many? Lee Sunwoo asked. I count 6 ships total, O. Dobbin reported. 1 large one, probably their main ship, and 5 smaller ones around it. Weapon status? Lee Sunwoo asked Nam Kyung-soo. Their weapons are powered but not aimed at us. It looks like they're in a defensive formation, not an attack formation. The communication signals suddenly stopped. Then, after a minute of silence, a new signal came through. This one was different from all the others. It was longer, more complex, and it repeated 3 times. Park Ji-won worked quickly to decode it. After several minutes, she looked up with an expression of complete shock. Captain, she said quietly, I think they're asking for permission to come aboard our ship. What? Nam Kyung-soo stood up. That's impossible. The Vorthak don't visit other ships. They don't visit anyone. I could be wrong, Park Ji-won said. But the pattern is very clear. Request, approach, permission, safe. Those are the concepts I'm getting from the signal. Dr. Kim was staring at the alien ships on the screen. This changes everything we thought we knew about them. Vorthak don't ask for permission. They take what they want, or they leave. Lee Sunwoo felt the weight of the decision on his shoulders. His ship carried 43 people, all depending on him to keep them safe. The smart thing to do would be to send a polite refusal and leave the area as quickly as possible. But something about the situation felt different. The Vorthak had spent hours learning to communicate with them. They had approached slowly, with signals instead of weapons. And now they were asking permission instead of demanding. Dr. Kim, he said, in all your studies of the Vorthak, Have you ever seen behavior like this? Never, Captain. This goes against everything we know about their species. Lee Sun-woo looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy to study alien life and explore new worlds. They had taken risks before, but nothing like this. Send a reply, he said finally. Tell them they can send one representative to our ship. Make it clear that we want peaceful contact only. As Yoon Hai-in prepared the signal, Lee Sun-woo wondered what he had just agreed to. In a few hours, he would be face to face with one of the galaxy's most feared predators, and somehow that predator wanted to talk. The docking bay of the New Seoul had never been meant for alien visitors. Chief Engineer Oh Da-bin had spent 2 hours adjusting the air systems and temperature controls, trying to make the space suitable for a Vorthak. Nobody really knew what. They needed to survive, so she had to guess, based on their homeworld's conditions. Captain Lee Sun-woo stood near the airlock with his senior officers. Dr. Kim Tae-ho held a tablet with everything humans knew about Vorthak biology. Park Ji-won carried a translation device she had built using their communication patterns. Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo had his hand near his weapon, but Lee Sun-woo had ordered him not to draw it unless absolutely necessary. Are we sure about this? Nam Kyung-soo asked for the 10th time. We're letting one of the galaxy's most dangerous predators onto our ship. The decision is made, Lee Sun-woo said, but everyone stay alert. The airlock signals changed from red to yellow, then to green. There was a soft hissing sound as the pressures equalized. Then the inner door slid open. The Vorthak that stepped through was larger than any of them had expected. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, with a body covered in scales that shifted between dark green and silver. Its arms were long and muscular, ending in hands with retractable claws that could probably cut through metal. Most striking were the patterns of light that moved under its skin, like living tattoos that pulsed with different colors. But what surprised the humans most was how the creature moved, instead of the aggressive, threatening posture they expected. From a predator, it moved slowly and carefully. Its head was lowered, and the light patterns under its skin were dim and steady, not the bright flashing they had read about in Vorthak threat displays. The alien stopped a few meters away from them and made a sound that was part growl, part musical tone. Then it did something completely unexpected. It knelt down on one knee and lowered its head even further. Is it bowing? Oh, Da-bin whispered. Park Ji-won was frantically checking her translation device. I think so. This is submission behavior. But Vorthak don't submit to anyone except their pack leaders. The alien raised its head and looked directly at Captain Lee Sun-woo. When it spoke, the sounds were deep and complex, nothing like human language. But the translation device in Park Ji-won's hands began to flash and beep. It's working, she said excitedly. The patterns from their earlier signals are helping the device understand their speech. What is it saying? Lee Sun-woo asked. Park Ji-won frowned at the device's screen. The translation is rough, but I think it's saying something like, I am Velthar, pack leader of the 7th Hunting Group. I come before you in great need. Great. Need? Dr. Kim stepped forward slightly. Ask what kind of need. Park Ji-won spoke into her device, and it produced a series of growls and tones. Velthar listened, then responded with a longer speech. As the translation came through, the humans felt their understanding of the Vorthak change completely. She says, "Her young are dying," Park Ji-won said quietly. "There's a sickness spreading through all the Vorthak colonies. It affects only the cubs, the young ones. Their normal medicine cannot stop it." The alien reached into a pouch on her side and pulled out a small device. She held it toward them, and a holographic image appeared in the air between them. The image showed young Vorthak, much smaller than Velthar, lying still and weak. The light patterns under their skin were barely visible, just faint flickers, instead of the bright displays healthy Vorthak should have. She calls it the dimming. Park Ji-won continued translating. The light inside the young ones fades, and then they die. It has killed thousands of cubs across their worlds. Dr. Kim stared at the holographic images. Even though these were alien children, there was something heartbreaking about seeing any young creature suffering. "How long has this been happening?" Velthar's response was immediate and filled with emotion that needed no translation. 3 of their months, Park Ji-won said, "and it's getting worse. Her own cubs are sick now." The hologram changed, showing 3 small Vorthak that looked very young. Their scales were duller than their mother's, and the light patterns were so faint they were almost invisible. Even to human eyes, it was clear these children were very sick. "Why come to us?" Lee Sun-woo asked. "Vorthak have never asked other species for help before." When Park Ji-won translated the question, Velthar's response was long and complex. She gestured with her hands as she spoke, and the light patterns under her skin grew brighter with emotion. "She says they have tried everything," Park Ji-won translated. "Their best healers, their oldest medicines, their most advanced science. Nothing works. The sickness is unlike anything they have seen before." Velthar continued speaking, and Park Ji-won's eyes grew wide as she listened to the translation. "She says they have studied other species in the galaxy, looking for someone who might help. Most species are afraid of the Vorthak and run away when they approach. Others have tried to help but failed because they don't understand Vorthak biology." Then, "Why us?" Dr. Kim asked. The answer came with a change in Velthar's posture. She stood up straighter, and her light patterns shifted to colors the humans hadn't seen before. "She says humans are different," Park Ji-won translated. "Her people have watched human ships and human colonies. They have seen humans help other species, even species that are not human. She says humans seem to care for young creatures, even alien ones." The bridge was quiet as the humans absorbed this information. They were being asked to help save an entire generation of one of the galaxy's most feared predator species. "What exactly is she asking us to do?" Lee Sun-woo asked. Velthar's response was desperate and pleading. She gestured toward the hologram of her sick cubs, and the light patterns under her skin flickered with what could only be described as parental anguish. "She wants to bring her cubs here," Park Ji-won said. She wants our doctors to examine them and try to find a cure. She knows it's dangerous to trust aliens with Vorthak young, but she has no other choice. Nam Kyung-soo stepped forward. Captain, this could be a trap. How do we know this isn't some kind of trick to get us to lower our defenses? But Dr. Kim was shaking his head. Look at her behavior. The submission posture, the emotional displays, the way she's showing us images of sick children. This isn't how Vorthak act when they want to attack. This is how any parent acts when their children are dying. Velthar seemed to understand that the humans were debating. She spoke again, this time removing something else from her pouch. It was a small crystal that glowed with soft light. She says this is a trust crystal, Park Ji-won translated. It's something Vorthak give only to their closest pack members. She's offering it to us as a sign that she trusts us completely. The alien held out the crystal toward Captain Lee Sun-woo. Her head was lowered again in the submissive posture, but her eyes were fixed on his face. In those alien eyes, Lee Sun-woo saw something he recognized completely, something that crossed all species boundaries. He saw a parent's desperate love for their children. She's also promising something else, Park Ji-won added. If we help her cubs, if we can find a cure for the dimming, she will share the treatment with all Vorthak colonies. She will make sure every sick child is healed. And if we can't help? Lee Sun-woo asked. Velthar's response was simple and heartbreaking. Then she will stay here with her cubs until they die, because she cannot bear to watch them suffer alone. The docking bay fell silent except for the quiet humming of the ship's life support systems. Lee Sun-woo looked around at his crew. He saw the same thing in their faces that he felt in his own heart. They were looking at a desperate parent who had exhausted every option and was now trusting complete strangers with the most precious things in her life. It didn't matter that she was an alien predator. It didn't matter that her species had never shown kindness to others before. What mattered was that children were dying and someone was asking for help. Lee Sun-woo stepped forward and carefully took the trust crystal from Velthar's outstretched hand. The crystal was warm and seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. "Tell her," he said to Park Ji-won, "that we will try to help her children." When the translation came through, Velthar's light patterns exploded in colors the humans had never seen before. She made a sound that needed no translation at all. It was the sound of hope. The emergency meeting in the New Souls conference room was unlike any in the ship's history. Captain Lee Sun-woo sat at the head of the table, the Vorthak trust crystal still warm in his hand. Around him, his senior officers debated a decision. That could mean life or death for everyone aboard. "This is insane," Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo said for the fourth time. "We're talking about bringing Vorthak cubs onto our ship. These aren't cute human babies. These are the offspring of apex predators." Chief Medical Officer Dr. Choi Min-jung shook her head. "Even if we wanted to help, I don't know anything about Vorthak biology. What if trying to treat them makes them worse? What if we accidentally kill them? And what happens to us if we do?" Nam Kyung-soo added. "If those cubs die while in our care, their mother will tear this ship apart. The entire Vorthak species will hunt us across the galaxy. Dr. Kim Tae-ho had been quiet during most of the debate, but now he spoke up. But what if we don't try? What if we turn away and let those children die? They're not children, Nam Kyung-soo insisted. They're aliens. Dangerous aliens. They're babies, Dr. Kim said firmly. Sick babies whose mother is desperate enough to beg for help from a species she's never trusted before. Park Ji-won looked up from her translation device, which was still processing recordings of Velthar's speech. I've been working on understanding more of what she said. The dimming isn't just affecting her cubs. It's spreading across all Vorthak colonies. If we don't help, an entire generation of their species could die. That's not our problem, Nam Kyung-soo said. Our job is to keep this crew safe, not save alien children. Captain Lee Sun-woo had been listening to the debate while thinking about everything that had led to this moment. 3 years ago, when Earth had approved the new Sol mission, their goal had been simple: study alien life and make peaceful contact, when possible. But nobody had prepared them for this situation. Dr. Choi, he said finally, what would you need to examine the cubs safely? Dr. Choi looked surprised by the question. Sir, I just said I don't know anything about their biology. But if you were going to try, what would you need? She thought for a moment. I'd need to set up quarantine facilities to protect both them and us from any diseases. I'd need to study their basic physiology to understand how their bodies work. And I'd need Dr. Kim's help to understand what normal Vorthak biology looks like. How long would that take? Days, maybe weeks, just for the basic examination. Actually developing a treatment could take months. Engineer O'Day-bin had been quiet during the meeting, but now she spoke up. Captain, I could modify one of the cargo bays to serve as a medical facility, add independent life support, quarantine barriers, monitoring equipment. It would take about 12 hours. You're all missing the point, Nam Kyung-soo said, standing up. This violates every first contact protocol we have. We're supposed to report back to Earth before making any major decisions involving new species. Earth is 18 months away at full communication speed, Lee Sun-woo replied. Those cubs don't have 18 months. Communications officer Yoon Hai-in had been monitoring the Vorthak ships outside. Captain, Velthar is still waiting in the docking bay. Her ships haven't moved, but I'm detecting some kind of activity. It looks like they're preparing smaller craft. To bring the cubs over, Dr. Kim said. She's getting ready to trust us with her children. The room fell quiet. Through the conference room's small window, they could see stars and the dark shapes of Vorthak ships in the distance. Somewhere on those ships were sick alien children, and their families were waiting to see if the humans would help or turn them away. Captain, Dr. Choi said quietly, I have to ask, why are you even considering this? It goes against everything we've been trained to do. Lee Sun-woo looked at the trust crystal in his hand. It was still glowing softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. When I was young, my family took in foster children, kids whose parents couldn't care for them anymore. Some of those children had problems, behavioral issues, medical conditions. My parents helped them anyway. He set the crystal on the table, where everyone could see it. One day, I asked my mother why she did it. Why she risked our family's safety and resources for children who weren't even related to us. Do you know what she told me? The room waited for his answer. She said that when a child needs help, you don't ask what species they are. You don't ask what problems they might cause. You don't ask if it's convenient or safe. You just help, because that's what decent people do. But Captain, Nam Kyung-soo said, these aren't human children. No, they're not, Lee Sun-woo agreed. But does that matter? I saw Velthar's face when she showed us those images. I saw a mother watching her children die. That emotion, that love, that desperation. It's the same in every species. Dr. Kim nodded. In all my studies of alien life, the one constant is parental care. Every intelligent species protects its young. The methods might be different, but the drive is universal. And we're humans, Park Ji-won added. Isn't this what humans do? Don't we help others even when it's difficult or dangerous? Dr. Choi was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. Full quarantine. Protocols, constant monitoring, emergency procedures if anything goes wrong. You're willing to try? Lee Sun-woo asked. I became a doctor to save lives, she said. I didn't specify which species those lives had to be. Oh Da-bin was already making notes on her tablet. I can have the medical bay ready in 10 hours if I work through the night. What about the risk? Nam Kyung-soo asked. What if this is all a trick? Dr. Kim shook his head. Look at the evidence. Velthar came here with a small escort, not a battle fleet. She submitted to us, showed us vulnerability, gave us a trust crystal. Everything about her behavior says, this is genuine. Plus, Yoon Hae-in added, if the Vorthak wanted to attack us, they wouldn't need to trick us. Their ships could destroy us easily. Nam Kyung-soo sat back down, but he still looked unhappy. I still think this is a mistake. But if we're doing it, I want security protocols in place. Armed guards, emergency lockdown procedures, escape plans if things go wrong. Agreed, Lee Sun-woo said. But the guards stay outside the medical area. We can't help those cubs if their mother thinks we're threatening them. The meeting continued for another hour as they planned the details. Dr. Choi would lead the medical team with Dr. Kim providing alien biology expertise. Oh Da-bin would modify the cargo bay and maintain life support systems. Park Ji-won would work on improving communication with Velthar. Nam Kyung-soo would establish security protocols that protected everyone without appearing threatening. As the meeting ended, Dr. Choi stopped Captain Lee Sun-woo at the door. Sir, I have to ask, one more time. Are you sure about this? If those cubs die, it won't just be a medical failure. It could mean war with the most dangerous predator species in the galaxy. Lee Sun-woo looked out at the stars again. Dr. Choi, what do you see when you look at those Vorthak ships? I see potential enemies. Ships full of weapons and aliens who could kill us all. I see something different, Lee Sun-woo said. I see parents who love their children so much that they're willing to trust their greatest fears to save them. That kind of love deserves respect no matter what species it comes from. He started toward the docking bay where Velthar was waiting. Besides, if we turn them away and those children die, We'll have to live with that for the rest of our lives. I'd rather risk everything trying to save them than do nothing and live with the guilt." Dr. Choi watched him go, then looked around at the rest of the crew. They all had the same expression on their faces, a mixture of fear and determination that she recognized from her own medical training. It was the look people got when they knew they were about to do something dangerous but necessary. "Well," she said to herself, "I guess we're going to try to save some alien children." As she headed toward the medical bay to begin preparations, she found herself thinking about her own reasons for becoming a doctor. She had always believed that life was precious, regardless of where it came from. Today she would get a chance to prove that belief extended beyond the boundaries of her own species. The next few hours would determine whether humanity's greatest strength, their instinct to protect and nurture the vulnerable, was powerful, enough to bridge the gap between species that had never trusted each other before. The modified cargo bay looked nothing like it had 12 hours earlier. Engineer O'Dobbin had worked through the night with her team, installing medical equipment, air filtration systems, and soft lighting that could be adjusted for alien eyes. Dr. Choi Min-jung had set up monitoring devices and prepared medical supplies, though she still wasn't sure how much good human medicine would do for alien children. Now, as Captain Lee Sun-woo stood outside the bay's transparent quarantine barrier, he watched 3 small shapes lying on specially designed beds. The Vorthak cubs were smaller than he had expected, each about the size of a human 5-year-old. Their scales were softer and lighter in color than their mother's, and the light patterns under their skin were barely visible, just faint flickers that came and went like dying candles. Velthar stood beside the beds, her massive frame somehow made gentle by the way she touched each cub with careful, tender movements. When she looked at her children, the fierce predator disappeared completely, replaced by a worried mother who hadn't slept in days. "The cubs are stable for now," Dr. Choi reported through the communication system. "Their vital signs are weak, but steady. Whatever this dimming disease is, it's not immediately life-threatening, but it's definitely getting worse." Dr. Kim Tae-ho was inside the quarantine area, taking readings with various instruments. "Their bioelectric systems are fascinating," he said. "The light patterns aren't just for communication. They're connected to their nervous system, circulatory system, even their immune system. It's like their entire body runs on a kind of living electricity." "And the disease is disrupting that electricity?" Lee Sun-woo asked. "It seems that way. The dimming appears to be some kind of virus that attacks their bioelectric network. As it spreads, their bodies start shutting down system by system." One of the cubs made a soft sound, somewhere between a whimper and a chirp. Velthar immediately moved to its side, making gentle noises that needed no translation. She was comforting her child in the universal language of parental love. "Captain," Communications Officer Yoon Hai-in said over the intercom, "I'm getting reports from crew members throughout the ship. People are asking about the cubs, wanting to know how they can help." This surprised Lee Sun-woo. "Really?" "Yes, sir. Engineer Park from Deck 3 asked if she could donate blood for testing. Technician Lee from Communications wants to know if there's anything she can do to make the cubs more comfortable. Even Security Officer Bay asked if he could help. With anything." Inside the quarantine area, Dr. Choi was examining one of the cubs with her instruments. The small alien didn't fight or struggle, but its dim light patterns showed it was afraid. Dr. Choi spoke softly to it, the same way she would speak to a frightened human child. "There, little one," she said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm trying to help." Something unexpected happened. The cub's light patterns flickered a little brighter, and it turned its head toward Dr. Choi's voice. "That's interesting," Dr. Kim observed. "It's responding to your tone of voice." "Just like human children respond to gentle voices," Dr. Choi said. "Maybe some behaviors really are universal." Over the next few hours, more crew members found reasons to visit the area near the quarantine bay. They couldn't go inside, but they stood at the viewing windows, watching the cubs with expressions of concern and sympathy. Many of them had never seen alien children before, but they recognized suffering when they saw it. Young engineer O-Da-bin was particularly affected. She stood at the viewing window during her break, watching one of the cubs that seemed smaller and weaker than the others. "That one reminds me of my little brother when he was sick," she said to Park Ji-won, who was working on improving the translation system. "He used to get these high fevers and he'd just lie there so still and quiet." "Did your brother get better?" Park Ji-won asked. "Always. My parents would sit with him all night, and eventually the fever would break." O-Da-bin looked at Velthar, who hadn't left her children's side since they arrived. "I wonder if she's been doing the same thing." Through Park Ji-won's improved translation system, they could now understand more of what Velthar was saying to her cubs. Most of it was simple comfort, telling them they were safe, that help was coming, that she loved them. The universal words of parents caring for sick children. But something else was happening that surprised everyone. The cubs were starting to respond not just to their mother, but to the human voices around them. When Dr. Choi spoke gently during her examinations, the cubs' light patterns would brighten slightly. When O-Da-bin hummed softly while adjusting the life support systems, the cubs would turn toward the sound. Most remarkably, when Yoon Hai-in accidentally began singing a lullaby she remembered from her childhood while working at a nearby console, all three cubs became visibly calmer. "This is remarkable," Dr. Kim said, recording everything. "They're bonding with humans. I've never seen anything like this in interspecies contact." Dr. Choi was examining the smallest cub when she noticed something else unusual. "Dr. Kim, look at this." When I place my hand near this cub, its bioelectric patterns seem to stabilize. Dr. Kim checked his instruments. "You're right. Your natural bioelectric field is somehow harmonizing with theirs. It's not curing the disease, but it's definitely making them more comfortable." Word of this discovery spread quickly through the ship. Soon, crew members were volunteering to sit near the quarantine barrier during their off-duty hours. They couldn't touch the cubs directly, but their presence seemed to help. Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo was initially skeptical of crew members spending so much time near the aliens. But when he came to check on the situation, he found himself staying longer than planned, watching the cubs with the same concern as everyone else. "I don't understand it," he admitted to Captain Lee Sun-woo. Yesterday I was afraid these aliens would be dangerous. Now I'm worried about whether they're getting enough rest. It's called empathy, Lee Sun-woo replied. When you see something vulnerable and innocent, it doesn't matter what species it is. You want to protect it. The breakthrough came on the second day, during Yoon Hae-in's shift monitoring communications. She had been softly singing while working, a habit she'd developed to help herself concentrate. One of the cubs had been listening to her voice, and suddenly its light patterns began pulsing in rhythm with her song. "Dr. Kim!" she called out excitedly. "Look at this!" Dr. Kim hurried over and saw what she was seeing. The cub's bioelectric. Patterns were synchronizing with the rhythm and tone of Yoon Hae-in's singing. "Keep singing," he told her, while frantically taking readings. "This is incredible. Your voice is somehow teaching its bioelectric system to maintain a stable pattern." Dr. Choi joined them, bringing her medical scanners. "Its vital signs are improving, not dramatically, but definitely improving." "Try singing something else," Dr. Kim suggested. "Something with a different rhythm." As Yoon Hae-in changed songs, the cub's patterns changed with her, always staying in sync. Its light grew a little brighter, and for the first time since arriving on the ship, it made a sound that wasn't distressed. Velthar noticed the change. Immediately, she looked at Yoon Hae-in through the barrier, and her own light patterns shifted to colors that Park Ji-won's translation system identified as gratitude and amazement. "She wants to know what you're doing," Park Ji-won translated. "She's never seen a cub respond to alien sounds like this." "Tell her it's music," Yoon Hae-in said. "Human music. We use it to comfort our young, too." When the translation was given, Velthar's response was immediate and emotional. "She says her people have songs, too, but the cubs stopped responding to them when they got sick. She wants to know if human songs can somehow heal what Vorthak songs cannot." Dr. Kim was studying his readings with growing excitement. "I think it's more than just the songs. It's the bioelectric interaction between humans and Vorthak. Our nervous systems operate on similar electromagnetic frequencies. When we sing or speak gently, we're creating patterns that their bioelectric systems can follow. Like training wheels," Dr. Choi said, understanding immediately. "Our stable bioelectric patterns are helping their disrupted systems remember how to work properly." Over the following hours, crew members took turns sitting near the cubs, talking to them, singing to them, simply being present with gentle, calm energy. The cubs grew stronger and more responsive. Their light patterns, while still dim, became more stable and consistent. Most remarkably, the cubs began to show preferences for certain humans. The smallest one always responded best to Odabin's gentle humming. The middle one perked up whenever Dr. Choi spoke to it during examinations. The largest one seemed to enjoy Nam Kyung-soo's deep, steady voice, though the security chief was embarrassed to admit he had started reading children's stories to it. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Kim told Captain Lee Sun-woo. "Interspecies bonding usually takes months or years to develop. These cubs are forming attachments to humans in a matter of days. And the humans are bonding with them just as quickly," Lee Sun-woo observed, watching his crew fuss over the alien children like grandparents spoiling grandchildren. Velthar watched all of this with amazement. Through the translation system, she began asking questions about human behavior, trying to... The neural interface had been active for 6 hours when something extraordinary happened. Dr. Kim Tae-ho, connected to the cub they called Shine, suddenly sat up with tears streaming down his face. "I can feel it," he whispered. "I can feel what? It's like to be them." Dr. Choi Min-jung monitored the readings frantically. The neural connection was stable, but the brain activity patterns were unlike anything she had ever seen. Human and Vorthak neural patterns were weaving together in complex harmonies that shouldn't have been possible. "What are you experiencing?" she asked Dr. Kim. It's like being part of a family song," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "Their consciousness isn't individual like ours. It's connected to their family, their pack. When Shine thinks of his mother, I can feel her love like warmth in my chest. When he thinks of his siblings, I can sense their presence even though they're connected to Yoon Hai-in and Oh Da-bin." On the other beds, Yoon Hai-in and Oh Da-bin were having similar experiences. Yoon Hai-in was connected to Glow, the middle cub, and she was softly crying as waves of alien emotion washed through her. "She's so scared," Yoon Hai-in said, "but also so trusting. She knows we're trying to help, and she's trying to be brave for her mother." Oh Da-bin, connected to Spark, the smallest cub, was experiencing something different. "This one is curious about everything," she reported. "Even while sick, he's fascinated by human thoughts and emotions. It's like he's learning about us while we're healing him." The cub's bioelectric patterns were growing stronger by the hour. Their light displays, which had been barely visible for days, now pulsed with gentle, steady rhythms. But something else was happening that no one had expected. "Dr. Choi," Captain Lee Sun-woo said, studying the monitoring displays, "the human volunteers' brain patterns are changing too." Dr. Choi looked at the readings and felt her breath catch. "They're developing new neural pathways. The connection isn't just one way. The cubs are affecting their minds just as much as they're affecting the cubs." "Is that dangerous?" Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo asked. "I don't know," Dr. Choi admitted. "These are completely new types of neural structures. I can't predict what the long-term effects might be. But the volunteers themselves didn't seem concerned. If anything, they appeared to be experiencing something profound and beautiful." "Captain," Dr. Kim said, his eyes still closed but his voice clear, "they don't understand why we're helping them. In Vorthak culture, you only risk yourself for your own pack, your own family. The idea of helping strangers, especially alien strangers, is completely foreign to them." "What are you telling them?" Lee Sun-woo asked. "I'm trying to show them what human families are like, how we adopt children who aren't related to us, how we help neighbors and strangers, how we form bonds based on choice rather than just genetics." Yoon. Hayin opened her eyes and looked toward Velthar, who was watching the procedure with intense concentration. Glow is sharing the connection with her mother. Velthar can feel what we're doing through her cub's consciousness. She's amazed. O'Dobbin added from her connection with Spark. She's never experienced emotions like human compassion and selflessness. It's overwhelming her. Through the translation system, Velthar began speaking. Park Ji-won, who had been monitoring the communications, looked up with wide eyes. She says she can feel our thoughts through her cubs, Park Ji-won translated. She says human consciousness is unlike anything the Vorthak have ever encountered. She wants to know how we can care so deeply for children who aren't our own species. Captain Lee Sun-woo thought about how to answer that question. Tell her that humans believe all children are precious, regardless of where they come from. We have a saying, "It takes a village to raise a child." It means that everyone in a community has a responsibility to protect and nurture the young. When the translation came through, Velthar's light patterns shifted to colors that indicated deep confusion mixed with something that might have been awe. She's asking if this means humans would protect any child, even Vorthak cubs they had never met before, Park Ji-won continued. Yes, Lee Sun-woo said simply. That's exactly what it means. The neural interface continued for another 4 hours. During that time, something remarkable occurred. The volunteers began to report that they could sense not just their connected cubs' thoughts, but faint impressions from the other cubs as well. The 3 young Vorthak, whose minds were being healed by human consciousness, were sharing the experience with each other in ways that created a temporary bridge between all the connected minds. It's like we're all part of one big family. Oh, Dabin said, smiling despite her exhaustion. I can feel Dr. Kim's determination to heal Shine and Yoon Hae-in's gentle affection for Glow. And through the cubs, I can sense Velthar's overwhelming gratitude. The cubs are learning about human emotions in real time, Dr. Kim added. They're experiencing love, compassion, and selflessness as we feel them. It's changing their understanding of what's possible between species. As the treatment neared completion, the cubs' bioelectric systems had stabilized completely. Their light patterns were bright and steady, their vital signs were strong, and for the first time since arriving on the ship, they were showing signs of normal Vorthak cub behavior. Shine, the largest cub, was trying to stand up on his bed. Glow was making small chirping sounds that Velthar recognized as requests for food. Spark, the smallest, was looking around with curious eyes and reaching toward the humans with tiny clawed hands. The quantum virus has been completely eliminated, Dr. Choi announced. Their bioelectric systems are functioning normally. The treatment was successful. As the neural interfaces were safely disconnected, the volunteers experienced a moment of profound loss. The connection to the cub's consciousness had been intimate and beautiful, and its absence left them feeling strangely alone. But something of the connection remained. Dr. Kim found that he could still sense Shine's emotional state, though not his specific thoughts. Yoon Hae-in could tell when Glow was happy or distressed. Dabin felt a continuing protective instinct toward Spark that was stronger than anything she had ever experienced. The neural pathways we developed during the connection are permanent, Dr. Choi explained, after examining the volunteers' brain scans. You'll always have some level of empathic connection to these cubs. Is that dangerous? Nam Kyung-soo asked again. I don't think so, Dr. Choi replied. If anything, the new neural structures seem to have enhanced their capacity for empathy and emotional understanding. They may be better at reading emotional cues from all species now not just Vorthak. The most remarkable change, however, was in the cubs themselves. As they recovered their strength, they showed none of the fear or aggression that might be expected from predator offspring. Instead, they seemed to seek out human contact, reaching for the volunteers who had healed them, making content sounds when humans spoke to them. They recognize us as pack-kin now, Dr. Kim explained. The neural connection didn't just heal their bodies. It created genuine bonds between our species. Velthar approached the quarantine barrier and began speaking rapidly. Park Ji-won worked quickly to translate her words. She says her cubs are not the same as they were before, Park Ji-won reported. The healing changed them. They now carry human thoughts and emotions as part of their consciousness. She wants to know if this makes them less Vorthak or more than Vorthak. Captain Lee Sun-woo considered the question carefully. Tell her that her cubs are still completely Vorthak, but now they also understand what it means to be part of a larger family that includes humans. They're the first of their species to truly know both worlds. When the translation came through, Velthar was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unprecedented in Vorthak history. She bowed deeply to every human in the room. She says, "The debt can never be repaid," Park Ji-won translated. But she promises that these cubs will carry the memory of human kindness for their entire lives. When they grow up and have cubs of their own, they will teach them about the aliens who risked their minds to save Vorthak children. And more than that, Velthar continued through the translator. She says she must return to her people and tell them what she has learned, that there is a species in the galaxy that loves children more than they fear strangers, that humans have proven love is stronger than the differences between species. As the cubs played together for the first time since becoming ill, their light, patterns bright and joyful, Captain Lee Sun-woo realized that they had accomplished something far greater than curing a disease. They had created the first genuine bond of trust between humanity and one of the galaxy's most feared predator species. But more importantly, they had proven that love and compassion could bridge any gap, overcome any difference, and heal wounds that seemed impossible to heal. The three cubs would grow up carrying human consciousness within their Vorthak minds, living proof that different species could become family in the most literal sense. And that would change everything. 3 weeks after the cubs were healed, Captain Lee Sun-woo stood on the bridge of the New Soul watching something he had never expected to see. Dozens of alien ships surrounded them, each from a different species, all waiting for their turn to request help from humans. Captain, Communications Officer Yoon Ha-in reported, "We're receiving another transmission. This one is from the Garak Collective. The Garak were silicon-based hunters, creatures of living crystal who dominated the Outer Rim territories. Like the Vorthak, they were apex predators who had never shown interest in peaceful contact with other species." "What do they want?" Lee Sun-woo asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "They're requesting medical assistance for their offspring. Apparently, their young are suffering from something called crystal rot, and their traditional healing methods aren't working." Dr. Kim Tae-ho looked up from his workstation where he was analyzing data from yet another species requesting help. Since word of the Vorthak cub's healing had spread across the galaxy, the new Soul had become the most sought-after ship in space. That makes 17 different predator species that have contacted us in the past 3 weeks, Dr. Kim said. All of them have sick children, and all of them are asking humans for help. It's unprecedented, added Park Ji-won, who had been working around the clock to develop translation protocols for dozens of new languages. These species have never cooperated with anyone before, and now they're all coming to us with their most precious possessions. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Choi Min-jung entered the bridge carrying a data pad full of medical reports. She looked exhausted but determined. "Captain, I've been analyzing the biological data from all these requests. We're seeing the same pattern across multiple species. Quantum viruses attacking the bioelectric systems of their young." "The same disease that affected the Vorthak cubs?" Lee Sun-woo asked. "Similar, but adapted to each species' unique biology. It's like something is specifically targeting the offspring of predator species across the galaxy." Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo, who had gradually become more supportive of their medical missions, frowned at this information. "That sounds too organized to be natural. Could this be some kind of biological weapon?" "I don't know," Dr. Choi admitted. "But what I do know is that thousands of alien children are dying, and we seem to be the only ones who can help them." The intercom crackled to life, and Engineer O. Dobbins' voice came through. "Captain, Velthar is requesting permission to come to the bridge. She says she has important information to share." Since her cubs had been healed, Velthar had remained aboard the new Soul as an unofficial ambassador. Her presence had been crucial in convincing other predator species that humans could be trusted with their young. The sight of a healthy Vorthok, matriarch vouching for human medical abilities, carried enormous weight in galactic politics. "Send her up," Lee Sun-woo said. When Velthar arrived on the bridge, she was accompanied by her 3 cubs. Shine, Glow, and Spark had grown noticeably in the weeks since their healing, and their light patterns were now brighter and more complex than normal Vorthak cubs. The neural connection with humans had enhanced their development in unexpected ways. "She has news from the Vorthak homeworlds," Park Ji-won translated as Velthar began speaking. "The treatment protocols we developed have been shared across all Vorthak colonies. Over 2,000 cubs have been successfully healed using the human neural interface technique." This was remarkable news, but Velthar's expression suggested there was more to report. "She says the Vorthak Council of Matriarchs has made a decision that has never been made in their species' history," Park Ji-won continued. "They are officially requesting alliance with humanity." The bridge fell silent. An alliance with the Vorthak would be the most significant diplomatic achievement in human history. But it would also mean taking sides in the complex web of galactic politics. "What kind of alliance?" Lee Sun-woo asked. Velthar's response was detailed and formal, clearly representing an official proposal from her government. "Military and medical cooperation," Park Ji-won translated. "The Vorthak offer their protection for human medical ships in exchange for continued access to neural interface healing techniques. They also want to establish joint colonies where Vorthak and human children can be raised together." Dr. Kim looked amazed. Joint colonies? Vorthak don't share territory with anyone. She says the cubs who were healed by human neural interface are different from normal Vorthak, Park Ji-won explained. They have enhanced empathy, better problem-solving abilities, and most importantly, they understand cooperation in ways that normal Vorthak do not. The matriarchs want to create more cubs like this. Before Captain Lee Sun-woo could respond, Yoon Hai-in called out from her station. Captain, we're getting priority signals from multiple ships. The Zeph Swarm, the Kraunathi Empire, and 3 other species are all requesting immediate medical conferences. They know about the Vorthak Alliance proposal, Velthar said through Park Ji-won. Word travels fast in predator communities. They don't want to be left out of this new relationship with humans. Over the next several hours, Captain Lee Sun-woo found himself in the unprecedented position of conducting diplomatic negotiations with 6 different apex predator species simultaneously. Each wanted access to human medical technology, and each was offering something valuable in return. The Garak offered rare minerals and advanced crystal technology. The Zeph promised protection for human ships in deep space. The Kraunathi suggested shared research facilities. Other species offered trade agreements, territorial access, and military support. Captain, Dr. Choi said during a brief break-in, negotiations. We need to think about the practical aspects of this. We can't possibly treat all the sick children across the galaxy with just 1 ship and 3 volunteers for the neural interface procedure. She was right. The neural interface treatment required trained humans who were willing to risk their minds to heal alien children. Dr. Kim, Yoon Hai-in, and Oh Da-bin had volunteered for dozens of procedures over the past weeks. But they were reaching their limits. We need to train more people, Dr. Kim said, and we need more ships equipped with the right medical facilities. I've been thinking about that, Oh Da-bin added. What if we created a specialized medical fleet? Ships designed specifically for interspecies pediatric care, staffed with volunteers who understand the risks and are willing to take them. The idea was ambitious, but it made sense. As word of human medical abilities spread, demand for their services was only going to increase. I'll contact Earth Command, Lee Sun-woo decided. We need authorization to expand this operation and recruit more medical volunteers. But even as he made plans for a larger medical fleet, he knew that something fundamental had changed in galactic politics. For the first time in recorded history, the most dangerous predator species in the galaxy were actively seeking peaceful relationships with another species. And it had all started because humans couldn't bear to watch alien children suffer. Captain, Velthar said through Park Ji-won, there is something else the matriarchs want you to know. They have been studying human behavior since our first contact, trying to understand how your species thinks. What have they concluded? Lee Sun-woo asked. They believe humans are the evolutionary answer to a problem the galaxy has never been able to solve, Park Ji-won translated. How to create cooperation between species that evolved as competitors. Because humans form pack, bonds with anyone they perceive as vulnerable or in need, Dr. Kim said, understanding immediately. Exactly, The matriarchs think this is why humans were able to develop advanced civilization while still maintaining strong empathy and protective instincts. Other species had to choose between being predators or being prey. Humans found a way to be both, and neither. As the day continued with more diplomatic meetings and medical consultations, Captain Lee Sun-woo reflected on how much their mission had changed. They had started as a simple research vessel studying alien life. Now they were at the center of the most significant shift in galactic politics in thousands of years. But the most remarkable part was that it had all happened because a desperate mother had trusted strangers with her children, and those strangers had been willing to risk everything to help. "Captain," Communications Officer Yoon Hai-in called out, "we're receiving a signal from Earth Command. They're responding to our request for a expanded medical fleet." "What do they say?" "They're approving the formation of the Interspecies Medical Corps. 50 ships, 300 medical staff, and volunteer neural interface specialists. They want us to head the operation." Lee Sun-woo looked around at his crew, the same people who had risked their lives to save 3 alien cubs just a few weeks ago. Now they were being asked to lead a medical mission that would span the entire galaxy. "Well," he said with a smile, "I guess we're going to be very busy saving a lot more alien children." Outside the ship, dozens of alien vessels waited patiently for their turn to trust humans with their most precious gifts. And in the quarantine bay, 3 young Vorthak played happily, their light patterns bright with health and joy, living proof that love really could conquer the fear between species. 6 months after the first Vorthak cubs were healed aboard the New Soul, Captain Lee Sun-woo stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. The great assembly hall on the neutral world of Kepler Prime could hold representatives from 1,000 species, and today every seat was filled. The New Soul, now the flagship of the Interspecies Medical Corps, orbited the planet below. What had started as a single research vessel had grown into a fleet of 50 specialized hospital ships, each one staffed with human volunteers who had learned the neural interface techniques. Dr. Park Ji-won had established the Interspecies Pediatric Institute on 3 different worlds, training centers where humans and aliens worked together to develop new treatments for diseases that crossed species boundaries. But today wasn't about medical achievements or diplomatic treaties. Today was about something much more fundamental. Today, the galaxy was formally recognizing a new principle that would govern interspecies relations for generations to come. Lee Sun-woo looked out at the assembled delegates. In the front row sat Velthar, now serving as the official Vorthak ambassador to the Galactic Council. Beside her were her 3 cubs, now healthy adolescents whose light patterns had developed in ways that amazed Vorthak scientists. Shine, glow, and spark carried human neural patterns within their alien minds, making them natural bridges between species. Representatives from dozens of predator species filled the assembly hall. The crystal-bodied Garok delegates reflected, light in rainbow patterns of respect. The void-dwelling Zeph had sent their most honored swarm speakers. The territorial Krau-Nathi, who normally refused to share space with other species, sat peacefully alongside former enemies. All of them were here because humans had answered their desperate pleas for help when their children were dying. 6 months ago, Lee Sun-woo began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's translation systems. We learned something that changed everything we thought we knew about the galaxy. We learned that love for children is truly universal. He gestured toward a holographic display that showed images from the past months. Human medical teams working alongside alien healers, human volunteers undergoing neural interface procedures to save alien cubs. Most remarkably, images of mixed-species colonies where human and alien children played together under the protection of both their peoples. We learned that when a parent's love for their child meets another being's willingness to help, species barriers become meaningless. Fear becomes trust. Strangers become family. In the audience, former Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo, now Director of Medical Fleet Security, watched with pride as his captain addressed the galaxy. Nam had been skeptical of the first alien contact, but months of watching humans risk everything to save alien children had changed his perspective completely. Now he commanded security forces made up of multiple species, all united in protecting the medical ships that had become symbols of hope across the galaxy. The Interspecies Medical Corps has now treated over 50,000 young beings from 200 different species, Lee Sun-woo continued. But the real miracle isn't the medicine. It's what we've discovered about ourselves and each other. He paused, looking directly at Velthar. We've learned that every species, no matter how different, no matter how fierce, becomes completely defenseless in the face of their children's need. And we've learned that some beings, when confronted with that vulnerability, cannot help but respond with compassion. The hall was completely silent as delegates from across the galaxy absorbed these words. Today, we are not here to sign treaties or negotiate trade agreements, Lee Sun-woo said. We are here to acknowledge a new truth about our galaxy, that the care and protection of children is a sacred responsibility that transcends all other considerations. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Choi Min-jung, now Director of Interspecies Medical Research, watched from the human delegation area. Over the past months, she had performed hundreds of neural interface procedures, connecting human consciousness to alien minds to heal diseases that had seemed incurable. Each procedure had taught her something new about the fundamental connections between all living beings. Beside her sat Dr. Kim Tae-ho, whose groundbreaking research into interspecies neural compatibility had become the foundation for a whole new field of medicine. His studies of the enhanced cubs, those who had been healed through neural interface, showed that the procedure didn't just cure diseases. It created permanent empathic connections between species that lasted for generations. The Galactic Accords. We signed today establish 3 principles, Lee Sun-woo announced, reading from a document that had taken months to negotiate. First, that the medical care of children takes priority over all territorial, political, or military disputes. Second, that any species with the ability to help sick or injured young beings has a moral obligation to do so, regardless of political affiliations. And third, that children who have been saved through interspecies cooperation shall be considered citizens of the entire galaxy, with the right to protection from all signatory species. As he read each principle, delegates throughout the hall activated their agreement signals. Light displays, sound patterns, chemical releases, and dozens of other species-specific ways of saying yes filled the assembly hall. But the most remarkable moment came when Velthar stood to address the assembly. Over the past months, she had become not just an ambassador, but a living symbol of how parenthood could bridge any gap between species. 6 months ago, she said through the translation system, I believed that Vorthak were alone in the galaxy, that we could trust only our own pack, depend only on our own strength. Her light patterns shifted to colors that conveyed deep emotion as she continued. Then my cubs became sick with a disease our greatest healers could not cure. In desperation, I approached the one species that had shown kindness to alien young. I expected them to refuse, to turn away, to protect themselves. She looked directly at Captain Lee Sun-woo. Instead, they risked their own minds to save my children. Not because they owed us anything, not because they expected payment, but because they could not bear to watch any child suffer. The hall remained, silent as Velthar's words were transmitted to every species present. Today, my cubs carry human thoughts and emotions within their Vorthak minds. They understand cooperation, empathy, and selfless love in ways that purebred Vorthak never could. They are living proof that different species can become one family. She gestured toward Shine, Glow, and Spark, who stood beside her with light patterns that showed both Vorthak pride and human compassion. But more than that, they represent the future of our galaxy. A future where children are protected by everyone, not just their birth species. Where love is stronger than fear, and where helping others is more important than competing with them. As Velthar finished speaking, something unprecedented happened in the assembly hall. Representatives from Predator, species that had been enemies for centuries, stood up together, the Garok and the Zeph, the Kraunathi and the Vorthak. Dozens of others who had never shown respect to anyone outside their own kind, they were applauding, not just approving, but actually celebrating what humans had accomplished. Today we learned why even predators trust humans with their young, Velthar concluded, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. It is because humans do not see prey or threat or alien when they look at our children. They see only young beings in need, and they cannot help but answer that need with their whole hearts. She paused, her light patterns shifting to the brightest, most beautiful display any Vorthak had ever produced. This is why humans will inherit the stars. Not through conquest or dominance or superior technology, but through the love they show our most precious gifts, through their willingness to risk everything to protect any child, anywhere, regardless of species or origin. As the assembly erupted in approval from 1,000 different species, Captain Lee Sun-woo felt the weight of what they had accomplished. The galaxy had fundamentally changed, not through war or politics or grand declarations, but through simple acts of compassion repeated thousands of times across hundreds of worlds. Engineer O. Dobbin, now Chief of Medical Fleet Operations, stood, with her team in the observation area. Over the past months, she had supervised the construction of permanent pediatric hospitals on 17 worlds, each one staffed by mixed teams of humans and aliens working together to save lives. Communications Officer Yoon Hae-in, now Director of Interspecies Communication, had developed translation protocols that allowed real-time emotional connection between dozens of species. Her work had made it possible for human medical teams to provide not just physical healing, but emotional comfort to alien children and their families. All of them had been changed by their experiences. The neural interface procedures had left permanent marks on every human volunteer, creating empathic connections that enhanced their ability to understand and care for beings from any species. As the formal ceremonies concluded and delegates began to mingle, Lee Sun-woo found himself approached by a young being he didn't recognize. It was clearly alien, with features that seemed to combine characteristics from several different species. 6 months after the first Vorthak cubs were healed aboard the New Soul, Captain Lee Sun-woo stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. The Great Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Kepler Prime could hold representatives from 1,000 species, and today every seat was filled. The New Soul, now the flagship of the Interspecies Medical Corps, orbited the planet below. What had started as a single research vessel had grown into a fleet of 50 specialized hospital ships, each one staffed with human volunteers who had learned the neural interface techniques. Dr. Park Ji-won had established the Interspecies Pediatric Institute on 3 different worlds, training centers where humans and aliens worked together to develop new treatments for diseases that crossed species boundaries. But today wasn't about medical achievements or diplomatic treaties. Today was about something much more fundamental. Today, the galaxy was formally recognizing a new principle that would govern interspecies relations for generations to come. Lee Sun-woo looked out at the assembled delegates. In the front row sat Velthar, now serving as the official Vorthak ambassador to the Galactic Council. Beside her were her 3 cubs, now healthy adolescents whose light patterns had developed in ways that amazed Vorthak scientists. Shine, glow, and spark carried human neural patterns within their alien minds, making them natural bridges between species. Representatives from dozens of predator species filled the assembly hall. The crystal-bodied Garok delegates reflected. Light in rainbow patterns of respect, the void-dwelling Zeph had sent their most honored swarm speakers. The territorial Krauvnathi, who normally refused to share space with other species, sat peacefully alongside former enemies. All of them were here because humans had answered their desperate pleas for help when their children were dying. 6 months ago, Lee Sun-woo began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's translation systems. We learned something that changed everything we thought we knew about the galaxy. We learned that love for children is truly universal. He gestured toward a holographic display that showed images from the past months. Human medical teams working alongside alien healers. Human volunteers undergoing neural interface procedures to save alien cubs. Most remarkably, images of mixed-species colonies where human and alien children played together under the protection of both their peoples. we learned that when a parent's love for their child meets another being's willingness to help, species barriers become meaningless, fear becomes trust, strangers become family. In the audience, former Security Chief Nam Kyung-soo, now Director of Medical Fleet Security, watched with pride as his captain addressed the galaxy. Nam had been skeptical of the first alien contact, but months of watching humans risk everything to save alien children had changed his perspective completely. Now he commanded security forces made up of multiple species, all united in protecting the medical ships that had become symbols of hope across the galaxy. The Interspecies Medical Corps has now treated over 50,000 young beings from 200 different species, Lee Sun-woo continued. But the real miracle isn't the medicine. It's what we've discovered about ourselves and each other. He paused, looking directly at Velthar. We've learned that every species, no matter how different, no matter how fierce, becomes completely defenseless in the face of their children's need. And we've learned that some beings, when confronted with that vulnerability, cannot help but respond with compassion. The hall was completely silent as delegates from across the galaxy absorbed these words. Today we are not here to sign treaties or negotiate trade agreements, Lee Sun-woo said. We are here to acknowledge a new truth about our galaxy, that the care and protection of children is a sacred responsibility that transcends all other considerations. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Choi Min-jung, now Director of Interspecies Medical Research, watched from the human delegation area. Over the past months, she had performed hundreds of neural interface procedures, connecting human consciousness to alien minds to heal diseases that had seemed incurable. Each procedure had taught her something new about the fundamental connections between all living beings. Beside her sat Dr. Kim Tae-ho, whose groundbreaking research into interspecies neural compatibility had become the foundation for a whole new field of medicine. His studies of the enhanced cubs, those who had been healed through neural interface, showed that the procedure didn't just cure diseases. It created permanent empathic connections between species that lasted for generations. The Galactic Accords. We signed today established 3 principles, Lee Sun-woo announced, reading from a document that had taken months to negotiate. First, that the medical care of children takes priority over all territorial, political, or military disputes. Second, that any species with the ability to help sick or injured young beings has a moral obligation to do so regardless of political affiliations. And third, that children who have been saved through interspecies cooperation shall be considered citizens of the entire galaxy with the right to protection from all signatory species. As he read each principle, delegates throughout the hall activated their agreement signals. Light displays, sound patterns, chemical releases, and dozens of other species-specific ways of saying yes filled the assembly hall. But the most remarkable moment came when Velthar stood to address the assembly. Over the past months, she had become not just an ambassador, but a living symbol of how parenthood could bridge any gap between species. 6 months ago, she said through the translation system, I believed that Vorthak were alone in the galaxy, that we could trust only our own pack, depend only on our own strength. Her light patterns shifted to colors that conveyed deep emotion as she continued. Then my cubs became sick with a disease our greatest healers could not cure. In desperation, I approached the one species that had shown kindness to alien young. I expected them to refuse, to turn away, to protect themselves. She looked directly at Captain Lee Sun-woo. Instead, they risked their own minds to save my children. Not because they owed us anything, not because they expected payment, but because they could not bear to watch any child suffer. The hall remained silent as Velthar's words were transmitted to every species present. Today, my cubs carry human thoughts and emotions within their Vorthak minds. They understand cooperation, empathy, and selfless love in ways that purebred Vorthak never could. They are living proof that different species can become one family. She gestured toward Shine, Glow, and Spark, who stood beside her with light patterns that showed both Vorthak pride and human compassion. But more than that, they represent the future of our galaxy, a future where children are protected by everyone, not just their birth species, where love is stronger than fear, and where helping others is more important than competing with them. As Velthar finished speaking, something unprecedented happened in the assembly hall. Representatives from Predator, species that had been enemies for centuries, stood up together. The Garok and the Zeph, the Kraunathi and the Vorthak. Dozens of others who had never shown respect to anyone outside their own kind. They were applauding, not just approving, but actually celebrating what humans had accomplished. Today we learned why even predators trust humans with their young, Velthar concluded, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. It is because humans do not see prey or threat or alien when they look at our children. They see only young beings in need, and they cannot help but answer that need with their whole hearts. She paused, her light patterns shifting to the brightest, most beautiful display any Vorthak had ever produced. This is why humans will inherit the stars. Not through conquest or dominance or superior technology, but through the love they show our most precious gifts, through their willingness to risk everything to protect any child, anywhere, regardless of species or origin. As the assembly erupted in approval from 1,000 different species, Captain Lee Sun-woo felt the weight of what they had accomplished. The galaxy had fundamentally changed, not through war or politics or grand declarations, but through simple acts of compassion repeated thousands of times across hundreds of worlds. Engineer Oda Bin, now Chief of Medical Fleet Operations, stood, with her team in the observation area. Over the past months, she had supervised the construction of permanent pediatric hospitals on 17 worlds, each one staffed by mixed teams of humans and aliens working together to save lives. Communications Officer Yoon Hai-in, now Director of Interspecies Communication, had developed translation protocols that allowed real-time emotional connection between dozens of species. Her work had made it possible for human medical teams to provide not just physical healing, but emotional comfort to alien children and their families. All of them had been changed by their experiences. The neural interface procedures had left permanent marks on every human volunteer, creating empathic connections that enhanced their ability to understand and care for beings from any species. As the formal ceremonies concluded and delegates began to mingle, Lee Sun-woo found himself approached by a young being he didn't recognize. It was clearly alien, with features that seemed to combine characteristics from several different species.